Hello, innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers. Welcome to another episode of Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. I'm your host, Sam Kamani, and today I'm interviewing Rand Hammer from Orbs.com. And at Orbs, they are building the L3 for the DeFi ecosystem and how they are supercharging DeFi with giving it functionality that was only used to be available for centralized exchanges. And he's going to share how he has been in crypto for 10 years and what he has seen, how the industry has changed, especially on the DeFi side, what DeFi projects he is super excited about, what different chains he's seeing on the DeFi side of things, making some really great strides. So if you want to learn about the future of DeFi, then this episode is for you. And as always, nothing that we talk about in this podcast episode should be taken as financial or investment advice. And as always, please share this clip and episode on your social media. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, Ran, it's great to have you on the show. Looking forward to interviewing you and learning more about what you're building at Orbs. But first question is, how did you get started in Web3?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for having me. So I've been in Web3 for a decade now, since 2015. Honestly, so my background is a bit different. I know you come from the technology, software engineer kind of side. For me, I actually started off as a lawyer. So I used to be a tech lawyer. I was working in a big Tel Aviv law firm, very focused on tech, startup funding, financing rounds, stuff like that, corporate law. And then in 2015, we had a client who reached out and told us that he's raising money. He's crowdfunding with Bitcoin. I was like, okay, what's Bitcoin? And that really got me into the rabbit hole. I wasn't familiar with Bitcoin before, but really got educated about what the promise is, learned about Ethereum and other solutions. Yeah, soon after that, so really got interested in the space. And I became the guy who was doing like legal for crypto blockchain startups for a couple of years. But that wasn't fun, especially in our space where the legal was, you had so much ambiguity. I didn't feel like I could really give good advice because nobody knew anything. Now it's changing. It's interesting, at least in the US. Then Orbs was essentially a client when it just started very early. I saw what the team was building and I essentially said, hey, I want to be part of the team. I don't want to be in the sidelines anymore. So I jumped ship. And today I lead the business side of things for Orbs, 8 years now.
Oh, that's amazing. And how would you describe Orbs' value proposition in like just one sentence?
So Orbs is essentially a layer 3 network built with the aim of bringing CeFi level of execution into DeFi. So essentially allowing developers to build the same level of apps in centralized venues, only in DeFi. So having the full functionality of DeFi. That was 3 sentences. I apologize.
No, that's all good. I was reading your website and it's more like a layer 3. So how do you see layer 1 different to layer 2, different to layer 3?
Yeah, of course. Honestly, this is all a bunch of marketing terms and it's a bit abstracted, but I'll tell you how I view this. So I would say layer 1 is the settlement layer where the value is held. I think at least in the EVM space, obviously the layer 1, the major layer 1 is Ethereum. That's where assets are. I would say layer 2s are about scaling. So essentially trying to have
speed
and lower costs, right? I think layer 3 is about adding additional functionality. So it's not about scaling. It's about adding stuff you can't do on layer 2, layer 1, the layer 2s. So essentially running more complex logic, doing more complex functions. That's what I would define as a layer 3. I would say, if not talking specifically about Orbs yet, I would say like Chainlink is what I would define as a very successful layer 3. Bringing in on-chain stuff with automation, with VRF, with oracles, bringing something that you don't have on the L1 or L2. So it's more than just scaling, it's adding functionality.
That's the best explanation of L1 to L2 to L3 that I have heard.
Thank you. It's funny. Sometimes we go on conferences, there's like a layer 3 summit and each project has a completely different definition of what the layer 3 is.
Exactly. That's why I wanted your definition. I wanted to see how you guys define it. Can you tell me a bit more about the liquidity hub?
Yeah, sure. We built our layer 3. We thought it was amazing, but builders didn't really pick it up. There's always a go-to-market question. It's a very hard question in crypto. So we said, okay, let's see where are we needed? What use cases could be built on top of the Orbs L3 that could be beneficial? And then we landed on essentially trading and specifically DEXs. Then we thought, what can we do that's hard to do on chain and we can do using the L3? And that's how we landed on aggregation. So essentially, and advanced order types as well. We can speak about that as well. But essentially, with Liquidity Hub, similar to UniX or perhaps a cow swap. So essentially, it's an RFQ-based Dutch auction mechanism that integrated into the DEX, essentially bringing any available liquidity sources to the DEX. So essentially, one of the bigger problems in DeFi is that liquidity is fragmented across different chains, different DEXs, different pools within the DEX. And what happens was that essentially aggregators were giving much better prices than DEX UIs. So for users, there's no real reason to go to the DEX UI. They can just go to an aggregator and they would route liquidity wherever they would. So with Liquidity Hub, we essentially work with our DEX partners to keep them competitive against the liquidators. So making them into like a meta aggregator. So that's how we landed on Liquidity Hub. And we have over 10 DEXs now, quite successful, generating good revenue for the DEX, as well as the good saving for users.
Amazing. So who are your main user for Orbs?
Thanks for the question. It's a good one. So Orbs is a B2C. That's how kind of view it. We work with partners. We don't have our own users. We like to be on the deeper technology side of things. I think marketing and engaging with users in crypto is a very specific art form. We have partners that are doing this very well. I don't feel like it's our thing. Our thing is more the tech side. So we work with big names, PancakeSwap, Biggest X, Sushi Swap, Quick Swap, Fina, SwapX, and many others across the EVM ecosystem. We power stuff like advanced order types like TWAP and Limit, Liquidity Hub, and Perps. We give it to them and they offer it to their users. I would say now the biggest distribution channel we have is PancakeSwap. That's the biggest X in crypto and they have the most users. So most people who end up using our network are essentially PancakeSwap users.
You would have so much more understanding about DEXs and how this whole ecosystem works on the decentralized finance side of things. What is one thing you feel like that most people don't understand about DEXs?
That's an interesting question. So I think the hardest thing for DEX, and most people don't appreciate it, is how much they need to pay liquidity providers. The problem is that decentralized exchanges need to pay crazy emissions to incentivize liquidity. They're worth nothing without liquidity. That's how it works when you trade. And incentivizing liquidity is very expensive and you need to somehow recoup that. So if you have a very successful token, you can use your token emissions for that. It has to be generated out of fees. And I think that's the biggest struggle we deal with DEX. But it's a bit like a chicken and egg. You need to have enough liquidity on the one hand in order to incentivize people to trade. But if you don't have enough liquidity, then people won't come in. But if you don't have people come in, it's not profitable. So people won't provide liquidity, essentially.
So who are the liquidity providers? Are they individuals or funds or who?
So actually you have a lot of different ones, but it's also people who are just providing liquidity personally in a personal capacity. It's also big groups and funds and clubs who are providing liquidity together. Also, a lot of institutionals are now coming in providing liquidity, especially on the bigger, more known AMMs.
Yes.
And also you have active liquidity managers. So you have vaults that you put your money in and they manage it for you and manage different positions like Gamma and a few other ones.
That's very true. Can you also tell me a bit about another product like that I saw on Orbs is like the Perpetual Hub?
Yeah. So after we did the advanced order types, TWAP and Limit, and then we did a Liquidity Hub. So that's all the spot side. We're thinking, okay, what else can we bring to on-chain trading? And we felt there's a lot of stuff to build, but there's a lot of people doing spots. Around 20% of spot volume happens on-chain as compared to off-chain. But Perps was highly underserved. It still is, but I'm talking even before Hyperliquid, who's now doing very well. Now is the best perp DEX. So essentially, we felt like on-chain perps is being underserved. We thought it was a blue ocean. There's a lot to do. And so we looked at different models for perpetual DEXs. One model, so I guess the two main models is A and order book. Both of them, the biggest issue is capital efficiency. Essentially, again, how much you have to incentivize liquidity. And with perps is even stronger because you need to have a lot of liquidity to allow for a lot of leverage. People want high leverage trading perps. And then we came across a project called Sim.io. They were doing intent-based perp trading. And we thought that's actually very interesting because that really eliminates the problem of capital efficiency. and you can
Yeah.
essentially provide our few, right? You have users, intent-based, essentially users have an intent to trade perps. Then you have somebody else take the other side of the trade and go hedge against wherever. So that is something we liked a lot. So we started working with them. And essentially on top of Steam, we built the full stack of Perpetual Hub. Now we upgraded, we call this Perpetual Hub Ultra. But essentially the idea is you have out of the gate, white label, full intent-based perp platform that any venue can integrate and offer their users. And yeah, it's going really nice. We have more pairs. So the biggest competition is obviously Hyperliquid. They're doing very well. We have more tokens of them. We have a deeper liquidity and we have higher leverage. So it's all good stuff, but there's still a lot to be built there. So this is one of the things we're pushing the hardest right now.
Very interesting. Earlier, before I pressed the record button, I was sharing about what we are building at AutoVale, which is more like a platform rather than a protocol at this stage for funds to connect with exchanges. A lot of them are centralized exchanges and then run execution algorithms such as TWAP and VWAP and those type of things. And I saw that at InOrbs, you have something called DTWAP protocol. Can you explain how does that work? How is that different to running execution on sexes?
It's like the very basic thing that we offer using Orbs, but essentially we're looking at DEXs. As I mentioned, I think a DEX is like the core building block in any DeFi ecosystem. So any new change is always like the DEX there or a couple of bigger DEXs that are doing good. And then we're thinking, okay, what kind of functionality is lacking in DEXs? And realize they don't have advanced order types, which is honestly something that you see in every centralized exchange. Obviously, people like to swap, but then doing TWAP or DCA, right? Dollar cost averaging. So buying over time or just setting limit prices to trade is something very basic. And essentially you didn't have it in DEXs at all. So we built our solution that essentially integrates with the DEX, leverage the orbs there for automation, right? Because per limit, you need something to check the price and see whether it executes. For DCA or TWAP, you need time-based. By the way, this is something a lot of people don't know. You don't have a clock on a blockchain. The blockchain doesn't know time. So if you want to time something, you need something outside like an Oracle chain to time the execution. Yeah, so we built that DCA for limit orders for DEXs, and we integrated that across almost everyone, Pancake, Sushi, QuickSwap, many others. This is now, honestly, I think this is the most widely used L3 DApp out there, TWAP and limit. So we're very happy with that. And we're also adding additional functionalities now. We're adding stop loss and take profit. So that's going to be also super cool, never done before in DeFi.
Amazing. That is, that's the basic stuff for centralized exchanges. Everyone has that. Even in TradFi, well, I used to do trading on TradFi just as an individual trader. And you have limit orders, stop loss orders, all these things. But a very little bit of that functionality I've used ever in swapping on a decentralized, whether it's a wallet or anything. And you just swap on spot pretty much if you want to swap something to something. Yeah. So very interesting. What's proof of stake? The other thing that I saw on Orbs.
Yeah, so essentially Orbs is a delegated proof of stake network. I think we were the second proof of stake live ever. It's been live since 2019. So we're very fortunate to have Orbs be a very decentralized network. Honestly, it's a thing that's very hard to bootstrap. It just happens over time. We've been around enough time. People sold their tokens and tokens moved on the secondary market and people became node operators. We call them Guardian. That's obviously a marketing term. We have a pretty diverse group of node runners right now for Orbs, from individual people who do it from home to bigger players as well. So we have a good mix. And essentially that's what powers the Orbs L3. So you have the whole like delegated staking mechanism that's happened on the EVM level. And then all these are essentially the people who are running Orbs nodes, machines that are executing. And then you have different kinds of methodologies for each use case, but essentially everybody reads information together. There's consensus to what information read from the base chain. And then when it's time to write back to the chain, because obviously you need to pay gas when you write on chain. So you have a leader election mechanism of which one of the nodes gets to do the writing back. And yeah, it's a beautiful system. It's been working honestly very stable for a pretty long time now. And we keep pushing it harder, putting more use cases on it, put more money on it, putting higher throughput on it. It's been working very well. That's like the core thing that runs the network, essentially. Without that, Orbs would not be performing.
You answered that question already. A lot of proof of stake chains out there. How's it all different? but you pretty much answered that.
Yeah, it's very unique. We don't even have a blockchain network. Orbs doesn't hold state, by the way. Orbs is like an execution network. The state is held on the EVM layer or
Very
with some other project. But essentially, we do focus on this enhanced execution, not on data. That's what makes us faster and much more flexible. You can write dApps in any language. You don't have to do Solidity or Java, whatever.
Where does the execution happen?
So what is execution when you say on a network? Essentially, it's like automation. It's read and write.
Yes.
So everybody reads together.
Yes.
Usually you have 22 nodes in the committee. So everybody reads together. They decide what happens, all run the same code. We're now introducing keys to even have another layer of kind of verification on what code runs in each of the nodes. And then there's an election mechanism between them. And then the one node that gets to write back sends a transaction back. So essentially you have complex logic runs on the L3 level, writes down to the L1, L2 level. That's kind of how it works.
Very well explained. What would you say is the biggest problem in DeFi currently, or a problem in DeFi that no one is talking about?
I would say still fragmentation. Like we've been talking about this for so long, for so many years, but still unsolved. You have so many new chains coming out every day. Oh, maybe the same, and it's fine. We're playing this game as well. We're there deploying on the new chains, but honestly, interoperability between chains is not easy. You have a lot of standard bridging solutions that are doing okay, but it's not perfect. It's not like an amazing experience. So being in one asset and you want to bridge to another, you need to bridge your tokens and you need to have like native token of each chain you're on. So you have enough money for gas. And I don't know if you ever try to fund a new wallet and then try to like move between a few chains and do a few things, even just for testing. You get so much money lost on the way or get stuck.
So much all the time. And then you want to move this to this, change to this, and then you need now all these tokens. And to get this, you have to go to this place to get that. And you just feel like you're doing something wrong all the time. Why do I have to do this?
That's just how it is. So it's really still a mess. So I would say biggest hurdles, as much as I view them, would be still fragmentation, still the UX, but hopefully we'll see that improving pretty soon. And obviously account abstraction is solving some of it.
Yeah.
Indexes now can bridge and swap and all together.
Yes.
But there's still a bit of a way to go. I think that's the biggest thing that's taking DeFi back.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, complexity and too much fragmentation. Have you seen those Dilbert comics? And in that, it's like he goes to his boss that we have a problem. The boss says, "Oh, what's the problem?" He says, "We've got too much fragmentation. We've got too many standards." So he said, "Okay, we got 28 or 20 standards." And then so his boss says, "Why don't you just create a standard, unify all of these standards together?" And then he comes back, "Oh, boss, we have another problem." What's the problem? We now have 29 standards. We have a never ending list of protocols and standards. And what would you say is like the hardest thing about scaling orbs right now?
So one of the things we've done is really focus on DEXs, which I think we're pretty dominating at this point as the technology partner for a lot of DEXs powering their swap and advanced orders and now perps. One of the main things that I am working on right now personally is seeing how we expand out of DEXs, because we've already focused DEXs for the last 2.5 years. And either we work with everyone, or some people just don't want third parties in their UI. They want to build stuff themselves, or they don't want the functionality. So from a sales BD perspective, I got to everywhere and I enjoy their volume. And obviously when bull market volume is high, we have a lot of volume. When it's lower, we have less. Question is like, where do we go out of bound of DEXs? Look at new venues, look at integration with wallets, looking at different kind of avenues. So I guess that's the biggest challenge, like trying to understand, once we've established the DEX market and are dominating it, which other kind of aspects are relevant for Orbs and for which products. So that's something we're spending a lot of time on.
What would you say would be the biggest benefit for any project to integrate with Orbs today?
Yeah, so honestly, trying to stay humble, I think it's a no-brainer to integrate with Orbs. It's super easy. We help with the integration. So if you're a venue that has users who would like to trade, either being a DEX or even if you're not a DEX, but you have users on chain already connected with the wallet, you can essentially get the best execution prices for spot. You can get advanced order types for spot, and you can get essentially a full-on perps platform. We share revenue with all of our partners. It's just a no-brainer. If you have users, you want them to stay with you. You don't want them to go to other places. You don't want them to go to Hyperliquid. You don't want them to go to Uniswap. Just have orbs on there, make it available for users to use, give them good products and make money.
So would you say that orbs would make there will be no need for aggregators in future?
It's funny. It's like we aggregate the aggregators. So
Yes.
without aggregators, so I wouldn't want to kill their business. We work with
Yeah.
aggregators. They're our friends. Honestly, it's just having a very complex, very efficient market. So everybody shares liquidity with everyone, right?
Yeah.
We can be like an aggregator, it's like a solver for somebody else. Somebody can solve for us. But essentially, a user comes in, they make an intent to do a swap, then all available liquidity on chain, be it market makers, aggregators, pools, everyone is essentially indexed together. And the trade just goes to whoever is the most efficient. So I wouldn't want to kill aggregators because we work with them. I just want to help them be as efficient as possible and have a very good, healthy race
Yes.
provide best execution for users.
Which DeFi or project are you most excited about that's outside of Orbs or Orbs ecosystem? Just someone who you feel is doing things right.
Good question. So I feel like there's a lot of new ecosystems coming up with interesting
Yes.
things. It's funny because they're a competitor, but I think the best and most successful DApp right now in DeFi is Hyperliquid. I don't think this is a very noble take. There's a lot to learn from how they did execution. I also think it's very interesting in how they took things, like starting off being a bit more centralized and then kind of decentralizing as they go,
Yes.
always prioritizing user experience over like hardcore decentralization. Because I think a lot of time when people build in the market, they really focus on create decentralization from day one, but then it just end up with maybe not the best product. That's one to look at. And from a chain ecosystem, Sonic has been doing very well for us. We're very bullish about Sonic. Then goes for Katana now launching. So that's a new chain with Sushi GSR involved. We are on Polygon, of course. And we are bullish on that. We deployed there on day one and looking at how the ecosystem grows. But yeah, exciting stuff happening.
Yeah, very interesting insights. Of course, like Hyperliquid, everyone knows, everyone. Many people in this ecosystem are wanting to do what Hyperliquid has done or has plans to do that, but I feel like a lot of them would be a bit late. I don't know if you were there at ETHCC. It felt like every few hours I was meeting someone who's trying to build a Hyperliquid competitor or go in that.
Yeah.
It felt like that. Maybe I'm going around in wrong circles.
The funny thing is, still, even with Hyperliquid, most of the perp action is CeFi, not DeFi. So there's still a lot of room to grow. You have one project that's quite dominant. It's like saying, oh, Uniswap is big, so why is everybody building DEXs? You also have PancakeSwap and SushiSwap and so many others who are obviously following their path, but doing different things. So I do think there's room for more. Obviously, not 1,000. It can have more than one winner, and definitely looking for some of them to use our stack.
Fantastic.
Another thing I see a lot now that's happening, and I haven't decided what I think about it yet, is the whole like on-chain treasury company thing that's happening. So everybody's trying to do on-chain MicroStrategy kind of thing with bills and stuff. So I think this is going to be an interesting bubble in the next few
months or weeks.
I hope not weeks. I don't think it's going to be more than weeks or months. But I think that's an interesting thing to see. But essentially having smart contracts acquire token treasury and then issuing their own token based on that other token treasury, or maybe with some bond system for subsidizing the purchase of that base asset that sits within companies like a vault or whatever that is. I think that's going to bring like new kind of tokenomics and new kind of dynamics into DeFi.
And then there is also always staking. And when you have this on-chain treasury, how far can you go with that type of staking, restaking, looping of that?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Whatever happens, people loop it to the edge. Whatever happens in DeFi, whatever yield or people will like loop it and everybody gets super highly leveraged. And I guess it makes things interesting, right? Now in DeFi, we need to be always on that kind of, if I can have a slower pace and we could be this like bleeding edge kind of thing. And then see what happens. Sometimes it wins, sometimes it fails, but it's still good to see. Always entertaining.
How do you explain to people in your family that are older members on like what you do for a living? Explain to them all the DeFi principles.
Man, nobody has any idea what we do. Honestly, people ask me what I do. I say, have you heard of Bitcoin? They're like, yeah, so we do stuff like Bitcoin. That's essentially how I explain
I
it.
have friends in D5, whenever they go back home or something, or Thanksgiving or whatever family event, they get asked by their uncles and aunties, so do you still work for Bitcoin? Yeah, yeah, I still work for Bitcoin.
But the funny thing is, we're becoming less and less the black sheep of the family. 10 years ago, you would talk about this stuff and everybody look at you like you're crazy. This
Yes.
guy's wasting his life on this nonsense.
Yes.
It's all scams and stuff. And now, like, the president of the US has like, how many ICOs did Trump do? Maybe 3 ICOs and an NFT collection.
And with the Genius Act and everything, and it's very legitimized in most parts of the world, and people are a lot more familiar with it because stable coins changed the game pretty much. I feel like it is used for payments and stuff in so much of the world. So it's
and
very
with ETFs as well. Like my
yes,
mom's banker is like pushing her to buy
yeah,
iShares Bitcoin ETFs. They're crazy. The bankers are pushing that now for people for their
yeah,
retirement
yeah.
funds.
You know what you were saying because of MicroStrategy and all that. What has happening? You know how in US they have 401k, and every country has their own version of retirement fund. In New Zealand, they have something called KiwiSaver, and so you can go with the provider of KiwiSaver, so you can go with managed fund type company who has their own, and then they go and put money in US stocks, equities, bonds, and then you can diversify your portfolio up to 10% into Bitcoin or whatever you want to choose. But then there are people who only believe in Bitcoin, like Bitcoin maxis. So what they do is they go 10% Bitcoin directly, and then they do 90%, they go and buy MicroStrategy type thing and Bitcoin ETFs. So that way they get access to 100% Bitcoin, which is a risky thing for retirement. But still, there are people who do like that. So that's happening like all around the world, that it is now become legitimate.
Honestly, the UK is a bit behind on quite displeased with it. You can't get the ETFs here in the UK, even not the big like Vanguard,
Goldman Sachs or any of them.
you can't get BlackRock, you can't get the ETFs here. So honestly, the only thing you can really do is either buy Bitcoin through Revolut or something, which is okay, but it's not for big amounts, but like retirement funds and stuff, or you can buy MSTR, but MSTR has its own risks.
That is such a big risk for the whole industry. Anyway, I was talking about how you said that we are no longer seen as the black sheep. Which industry now do you feel like is seen as the black sheep?
It's interesting. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, bankers. No, okay.
I'm also joking. Yes.
I don't know. I feel obviously we're also not the new kid anymore. So now AI is the new kid. AI is like the big promise and we all see it in our lives. I'm sure you use AI daily. I know I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know really. I feel we're still maybe considered like the bad boys or like the black sheep in some circles, but I think it's getting much better. And I see like a full convergence of TradFi and DeFi within maybe the next decade.
Oh, there is only going to be like finance. It's all going to be just finance. On that note, what's next for Orbs?
Yeah, so for Orb specifically, one thing that's a big focus for us is essentially we want to touch as much volume as we can. So it's really about introducing additional products, plus expanding like our integration base, our user base. So I already mentioned this earlier on this conversation, but we are going to introduce new advanced order types, stop loss and take profit. We think that's going to be massive. We're going to be the first to do it in DeFi. And I'm sure this is something all our partners will pick up very quickly. We're also working on expanding our perpetual hub ultra offering. So essentially our white label perp deck, we went live only a couple of weeks ago with Fina on BNB and Spooky Swap on Sonic, and looking to already have a few partners in place. They're going to be announcing a few new integrations in the very close future. And then also chain stuff. So we have some plans for an upgrade of the chain. We also have a few things we want to do in terms of governance, making things more decentralized. We are planning some DAO transitions. We already building this project for over 8 years. We are in the process of trying to give more control to the community and becoming more decentralized over time. So this is also something we plan to give a big push in, I would say, the next 12 to 18 months. So exciting stuff. I would say more of the same, better, stronger, faster.
That sounds very exciting. And on that note, do you have ask? Are you guys looking for anything? Are you guys hiring? Are you guys looking for any partnerships? Anything? Feel free to share with the community.
So always looking for everything. If you're a builder, you're building a DEX or a trading venue, and you're looking for something to build, reach out. Even if we're not the best match, it's always good to talk and know and see what people are building. So people who are building anything that has to do with trading or liquidity or this or whatever. We're always hiring. So if anybody's looking, especially on the dev side, I'll be part of an amazing project, then hit us up. And then from everything that has to do with staking token as well, if you're willing to participate in that aspect. Also very happy to onboard new people. There's always room to grow, ecosystem and the family. So yeah, I'm the guy. You can reach out to me. My DMs are open on Telegram. And yeah.
Fantastic. So what I'll do is I'll share all the links to you guys so people can reach out to you and the Orbs team and connect with you. And yeah, this will be published by middle of August 2025. Are you going to any major events next? Is it Token 2049? Anything else?
Yeah, Korea is a very strong market for us. So every year, KBW is one of the most important conferences I do, the Korean Blockchain Week. Before that, actually, we have WebEx in Tokyo as well. Also a very good market for us. Then Token 2049.
Yeah.
And I guess then DevConnect in Buenos Aires, Argentina this year.
Yeah.
I've never been to Argentina before.
Me
so that
too.
would be interesting.
Yeah, never been to Argentina. Been to WebEx, been to KBW every year. And I go to some centralized ones like Digital Asset Summit in London, pretty much, which is in your backyard. Last year, there were like 11 side events. It is crazy.
Just finding like a coffee shop to sit down and have a conversation in Singapore during that week is crazy. Between Token 2049 and Formula One, impossible to move. It's crazy.
It is. I think it has become the biggest event in our industry within the whole year. Both the tokens, Dubai and this, they're both very hectic.
Us as well.
Yeah, all good. So thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and learning more about Orbs and what you guys are building, how it's changing DeFi or the face of DeFi. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time and hosting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching this episode of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. By now, you know the drill. Leave a comment or share this episode with a friend and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So that's why my DMs are open. Reach out to me, especially if you are a founder building a product in Web3. Then I would love to hear from you. What are your challenges? Is there anything that I can help you or my community can help you with? Thank you once again and wish you best of luck in building your startup or your project.